Good evening, my name is Damien, the tall, friendly atheist dad, and host of the Tall, Friendly Atheist Dad podcast, and welcome to part 15 of An Atheist Reads I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist.
So far from lies and hypocrisy, returns to energy, and silence becomes brave. Don't ask me the reason why. Just say I only dream in black and white. Future's nothingness, but I can choose another end. Opening my eyes, and you beginning in my life. Without emptiness to feel, I am sure of myself. No mercy until the end.
Okay, good evening. Yes, my name is Damien, the tall, friendly atheist dad, though that has been challenged in the last couple of days. The debate, I got into a couple of debates recently with a couple of friends, and it's started to get a little bit heated. So I'm doing my best to be friendly. As it does get a little bit does get tested sometimes, but yeah. Anyway, so this is part 15 of An Atheist Reads I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist by Frank Turek and Norman Geisler. So if you want, head on over to the YouTube channel for the Tall Friendly Atheist Dad podcast and check out all the other playlists of all the other books that I'm reading. And there, so you'll find a playlist. So because this is part 15, there's 14 other parts, though I may have accidentally deleted one or two of them because I was trying to save space. I'm a bit of a goofball. And by a bit of a goofball, I mean a lot. And next to me is the warm, cuddly reading son, who is reading a book of some sort, as he does. You know, I've invited a couple of guests. If those guests come in, then we'll see. Sometimes JJ, the archaeologian, pops in. He's always good for a chat. Sometimes a Cash Deep comes in. Sometimes Maximo comes in. I had Ben come in the other night. I had Eliana as well. That was an interesting chat. So yeah, look, if you are listening to this on live stream, feel free to leave comments. If you do want to come in and have a chat, feel free to ask. Just try to do it in the first 15 minutes so I can happily interrupt the flow. But otherwise, feel free to leave comments. I will happily respond to comments as they come in. So if you do happen to have the book with you, or even a PDF of the book, be it gained by legal or illegal means, I'm not going to judge either way. So let me get my back support, because I'm recording in my bedroom. So that's what you do when you don't have a proper desk yet. So we're about to start chapter 5, which is titled The First Life, Natural Law or Divine Awe. Now, just my commentary on the first 14 parts of what I've gathered from reading the first 14 parts, or during the first 14 parts, is that Geisler and Turek aren't really making a knockdown, drag-out case for God. They're basically relying on, firstly, straw-manning what atheism actually is, particularly rational skeptic atheism, which is probably where I'd fit in. Basically, anyone who's not a Christian is a relativist, which I find incredibly frustrating, and as if relativist is a bad word anyway, but in Christian theology, relativist is a bad word. What else? What else is there? Just trying to think. What else? He just relies on quote mining other quote mining other people, taking not necessarily taking quotes out of context, but just making conclusions and assertions that the evidence doesn't quite support is the way I'm looking at it. And but the problem though is that he makes a lot of arguments that said just the evidence doesn't support when he talks about the universe being held up by a transcendent being who made a personal decision to start the universe. I mean, oh my god, really? Please, I don't want to get into that at the moment. That's just you haven't even proved that the universe was designed. The only way that you're saying the universe is designed because of very large numbers that someone pulled out of their hat. So anyway, so if you are reading the book, page 113, which is chapter 5, the first law. The first life, natural law or divine law. So 3, 2, 1. Hey, can I have a click? God never performed a miracle to convince an atheist because his ordinary works provide sufficient evidence. Ariel Roth. Oh, sorry, I better put the tunes on. This is from Victim of Illusion from their album Invisible Light. victimofillusion.bandcamp.com. Take out the garbage, Mum. 16-year-old Johnny came down from his bedroom and stumbled into the kitchen to get a bowl of his favourite cereal, Alpha Bits. When he got to the table, he was surprised to see the cereal box was knocked over and the alphabet letters spelled "Take out the garbage, Mum" on the placemat. Recalling a recent high school biology lesson, Johnny didn't attribute the message to his mum. After all, he'd just been taught that life itself is merely a product of mindless natural laws. If that's the case, Johnny thought, why couldn't a simple message like "Take out the garbage, Mum" be the product of mindless natural laws as well? Maybe the cat knocked the box over, or an earthquake shook the house? No sense jumping to conclusions. Johnny didn't want to take out the garbage anyway. He didn't have time for house chores. This was summer vacation, and he wanted to get to the beach. Mary would be there. Since Mary was a girl Scott liked too, Johnny wanted to get to the beach early to beat Scott there. But when Johnny arrived, he saw Mary and Scott walking hand in hand along the shore. As he followed them at a distance, he looked down and saw a heart drawn in the sand, with the words "Mary loves Scott" scrawled inside. For a moment, Johnny felt his heart sink, but thoughts of his biology class rescued him from deep despair. Maybe this is just another case of natural laws at work, he thought. Perhaps sand crabs or an unusual wave pattern just happened to produce this love note naturally. No sense accepting a conclusion he didn't like. Johnny would just have to ignore the corroborating evidence of the hand-holding. Comforted by the fact that principles learned in his biology class could help him avoid conclusions he didn't like, Johnny decided to lie down for a few minutes to get a little sun. As he put his head back on his towel, he noticed a message in the clouds: "Drink Coke." The white puffy letters revealed on the sky blue background. Unusual cloud formation, Johnny thought. Swirling winds, perhaps? No, Johnny couldn't play the game of denial any longer. Drink Coke was the real thing. A message like that was a sure sign of intelligence. It couldn't be the result of natural forces, because natural forces have never been observed to create messages. Even though he never saw a plane, Johnny knew there must have been a skyrider up there recently. Besides, he wanted to believe this message. The hot sun had left him parched, thirsting for a Coke. Okay, I know where Frank. Sorry, I'm going to say Frank because it's. I think it's mostly Frank because Frank uses a lot of these arguments anyway. I know where Frank's going to go with this. He's going to say that DNA is a message. Either DNA is a message from God, or that the information programmed into DNA is from God, or stuff like that. I think some people call it specified complexity or irreducible complexity or stuff like that. But his basic the gist of the next bits will be that when we look at, so if we see Scott loves Mary on the beach and we go, well, that was obviously a put there by an intelligence. Then when we look at DNA and we see that put there by an intelligence, then. So I'm just going to pause for a sec because my son is trying a challenge he saw on Instagram before. No, son, your legs have to come out like straight out sideways. You can't lift them up. You got to keep them on the ground. Yeah, and then so you then got to like split your legs as you lie down on the. Yeah, so keep them going. Keep them going. Yep. You're not flexible. And then you got to try. Actually, you could almost get it. So put your right knee forward. Put your right knee forward. Right knee forward. Yeah, forward. You got to try to bring it forward. Okay. Yeah, and then try bring your left knee forward. Okay. It might be easy on the floor. If you want to try on the floor, it might be a bit easy on the floor. Yeah, sorry, my son is play not right now. So yes, he's trying this challenge where he's got to lie face down on the floor in a straight line, and then get his feet to the front without his feet. So be able to stand up without using your hands and without his feet leaving the ground. Yeah. So anyway, so he's got to make the case that when we look at DNA, that is coded stuff from God. Well, because it's from God, it couldn't be any other deity. It has to be from God. Now, I'm already annoyed at this. So this is actually the furthest I've got in the book. When I read it the first time previously, I got about partway through chapter 3, just because the arguments are so bad. But see, the things I do for you, my audience. And so did I tell you my bedroom is right next to an ensuite, and that people... Did I tell you that people like to flush the toilet without shutting the door first? Gee. Yeah, so I really hate this. So this is one of the frustrating things about dealing with the Frank Turek, creationist arguments, but Frank Turek seems to have a gift for it, where he's, but where was it? After all, he'd just been taught that life itself is merely a product of mindless natural laws. Then where was it? Where was another like snarky bit that he put in there? But thoughts of his biology class rescued him from deep despair. Maybe this is just another case of natural laws at work. No sense accepting a conclusion he didn't like. Johnny would just have to ignore the corroborating evidence of handholding. Comforted by the fact that principles learned in his biology class could help him avoid conclusions he didn't like, Johnny decided to lie down for a few minutes to get a little sun. So this is... Anyone listening to this, this is one of the most prominent... This is an argument from one of the most prominent Christian apologists today. So... I don't want to say you should be ashamed of yourselves, but if you are a Christian and you're listening to this and you think Frank Turek is one of the best apologists and he's got a great knockdown argument, I've got news for you. I really news for you that this is... Thank you. This is just a bad This is bad philosophy. Anyway, back to the book. This section is titled Simple Life? There's no such thing. One needs to be playing with only half a deck, or be willfully blind to suggest that messages like "take out the garbage, Mum," and "Mary loves Scott" are the work of natural laws. Yet these conclusions are perfectly consistent with principles taught in most high schools and college biology classes today. That's where naturalistic biologists dogmatically assert that messages far more complicated are the mindless products of natural laws. They make this claim in trying to explain the origin of life. Okay, this is again not just a straw man, because a straw man indicates that you actually learnt the stuff you're talking about in the first place, and you're deliberately misrepresenting it. I don't even know if Frank Turek learnt this in the first place to actually be straw manning it. But yeah, so where it goes, this is where naturalistic biologists dogmatically assert that message is far more complicated. Okay, so I can already tell the error. I can't name it, but I can already tell the error that. So, for example, when you get a message saying "take out the garbage, Mum," we know a mind put that there, and we know that the mind is trying to communicate with our mind because it's putting it in a language we can understand. And yeah, it is, how can I say, it is also not something found in nature. We don't find cereal boxes randomly knocked over with alphabet cereal placed in perfectly aligned things. But we can tell it's a message because we can tell the meaning that's being conveyed. Whereas with DNA, we have to ask, what is the message that is being conveyed? And so I suppose, what would Frank Turek rather happen? That we teach intelligent design in schools and colleges? Well, no, because intelligent design is a propagation of religion. And that has been found to be true by in the Kitzmiller versus Dover case. And that was episode 30, I think it was, or episode 32 of the podcast, where I interviewed Glenn Branch from the National Centre for Science Education. He's a great guy. He's great for a chat. Love chatting with him. He had a ringside, basically what he said was a ringside seat to the whole proceeding. So anyway, back to the book. Naturalistic biologists assert that life generated spontaneously from non-living chemicals by natural laws without any intelligent intervention. They don't just assert it, we can actually demonstrate it. There's two ways that I like to show my case. Firstly, the Urey-Miller experiment. Now, I know a lot of creationists will crap all over the Urey-Miller experiment because, that was generated in a lab by a guy. If it takes intelligent life to create things from chemicals, then why can't you say God did it? Well, all Urey-Miller did was set up the conditions in a lab, and ran a few experiments, and I think they initially found like 15 amino acids. And then about 30 years later, they checked the vials that he had, and they found like 5 or 10 more. There's interesting there. And the other thing is that amino acids have been found on comets. So if you do a Google search for amino acids comets, amino acids are one of the building blocks for DNA. So either amino acids can form naturally in the environment, or the creator of amino acids are splashing amino acids willy-nilly all throughout the universe. So that's, let's get back to the book. Such a theory might have seemed plausible to a 19th century scientist who didn't have the technology to investigate the cell and discover its amazing complexity. But this naturalistic theory flies in the face of everything we know about natural laws and biological systems. Since the 1950s, advancing technology has enabled scientists to discover a tiny world of awesome design and astonishing complexity. At the same time that our telescopes are seeing farther out into space, our microscopes are seeing deeper into the components of life. While our space observations have yielded the anthropic principle of physics, which we discussed in the last chapter, our life observations are yielding an equally impressive anthropic principle of biology. Okay, so what's he got here? Such a theory might have seemed plausible to a 19th century scientist who didn't have the technology to investigate the cell and discover its amazing complexity. And this other sentence here. Since the 1950s, advancing technology has enabled scientists to discover a tiny world of awesome design and astonishing complexity. I'll agree that it is astonishing complexity, but just because it's complex to us doesn't mean it was designed. This is one of the fallacies that I find creationists make, and it gives me the irrits. I'll put it like that. Because design doesn't always infer complexity. For example, a shopping bag. A shopping bag is not complex, but we know shopping bags are designed because they don't form naturally in nature. And plus, the whole intelligent design argument rests on the false. What would you say? The false dichotomy, but it relies on being able to hoodwink the listener into thinking that because it's complex, it must be designed. No, you have to have an independent heuristic, a set heuristic by which you measure these things. And this is why I bring up the plastic shopping bag. The plastic shopping bag is just, a few chains of polymers put together. They're not hard at all. But we know they're designed because, So let's see what other. I don't want to say lies, but I want to see what other falsehoods is he going to try and push past. To show you what we mean, let's consider so-called simple life. A one-celled animal known as an amoeba. Naturalistic evolutionists claim that this one-celled amoeba, or something like it, came together by spontaneous generation, i.e. without intelligent intervention, in a warm little pond somewhere on a very early Earth. According to their theory, all biological life has evolved from that first amoeba without any intelligent guidance at all. This, of course, is a theory of macroevolution, from the infantile to the reptile to the gentile, or from the goo to you via the zoo. Believers in this theory of origin are called by many names: naturalistic evolutionists, materialists, humanists, atheists, and Darwinists. In the remainder of this chapter and the next, we'll refer to believers in this atheistic evolutionary theory as Darwinists or atheists. This does not include those who believe in theistic evolution. This does not include those who believe in theistic evolution, i.e. that evolution was guided by God. Regardless of what we call the true believers in this theory, the key question for us is this: is their theory true? It appears not. Okay. Yeah, so this is... so firstly, the name calling. Also, the snide remarks, from the goo to you via the zoo. From the infantile to the reptile to the gentile. This is one reason why we don't take creationists seriously, is because they come up with really dumb stuff like this. So where was it? So naturalistic evolutionists claim this one-celled amoeba, or something like it, came together by spontaneous generation. Okay, so here he's already getting terms wrong. He's already getting terms wrong. So spontaneous generation was actually an early scientific theory. I think it was proposed by Louis Pasteur, which is where now. Okay, let me share a screen. So if you are watching this, if not, yeah. I guess I was discussing the Toronto blessing the other day. Now, spontaneous generation is a body of thought on the ordinary formation of living organisms without descent from similar organisms. Now, there was so basically the idea was that like, for example, maggots arise from rotting meat. So the information for the maggots is already in the rotting meat, even though you can't see the maggots. And then under the right conditions, you would magically see maggots. Here we go. So the doctrine of spontaneity was coherently synthesized by Aristotle, who compiled and expanded the work of early natural philosophers and the various ancient explanations for the appearance of organisms, and was taken as scientific fact for 2 millennia. Though challenged in the 17th and 18th centuries by the experiments of Francisco Redi and Lazzaro Spallanzani, was not disproven until the work of Louis Pasteur and John Tyndall in the midnight. Okay, so it wasn't pushed by Pasteur, it was disproved by Pasteur. Rejection of spontaneity is no longer controversial among biologists. By the middle of the 19th century, experiments by Pasteur and others refuted the traditional theory of spontaneous and supported biogenesis. So when he says spontaneous generation, this is a clear indication that he has not actually studied the topic. Turek and Geisler have just read what other creationists have said about the topic, and they've gone, it must be complete BS because my favorite creationist says it's complete BS, or someone who I see as an expert. Now, I wish I knew the theory of evolution and a biogenesis better to be able to refute this. Maybe one day. So one-celled amoeba or something like it came together by spontaneous generation, i.e. without intelligent intervention, in a warm little pond somewhere on very early Earth. That is somewhat correct, but not quite. There's a lot of stages that go into it, but the fact that Urey and Miller were able to get amino acids together using experiments, that shows that we can, from natural materials, come up with the building blocks for life. Now, according to the theory, all biological life has evolved from that first amoeba without any intelligent guidance at all. That is somewhat correct. But not that amoeba. Basically, we've had single-celled organisms for, I think, like 500 million years. No, just trying to think. No, for a few billion years, we've had single-celled organisms, and then they have developed into multi-celled organisms, and then we then have the variety of life that we see. But remember, like 500 million years, even billions of years, is a very long time. Very, very, very long time. But where was this little thing I was going to discuss as well? So then you then have the domains of life. You have prokarya and eukarya. What were the domains? I'm just going to work out I forgot what they were. So this is the thing I want to domain biology. Okay, so that's not what I was after. Okay, so we have bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. So again, as I said, I can't say exactly how this works, but to say that it's rubbish means that Turek and Geisler have not studied the topic. That is, now the other thing, the next thing I have a problem with is believers in this theory of origin are called by many names: naturalistic evolutionists, materialists, humanists, atheists, and Darwinists. you can be an evolutionist without being a Darwinist. And Darwin's contribution to the matter only goes as far as natural selection. Yeah, basically his contribution basically goes as far as natural selection, but he was one of the first to. Sorry, he was one of the first to be able to put the theory of evolution into a way that could be commonly understood. But he's not the father. Well, in a way, he's the father, but he's not the be-all and end-all of evolution. All he was a guy who was able to put concepts into paper and make it reachable, make it understandable for people to read. There are other people who were working on similar theories. Who was it? Alfred Russel Wallace was apparently working on it as well, and I think Lamarck had his own theory of evolution. But there was also a whole lot of stuff that Darwin got wrong as well. But even if Darwin got one thing wrong, 10 things wrong, 100 things wrong, that doesn't stop the study of the theory of evolution. And again, just because you can't accept it, just because you don't understand it, can't understand it, find it ridiculous, doesn't make it false. Otherwise, black holes wouldn't. They can say, well, you could say that black holes don't exist, or the idea of black holes, supermassive objects whose gravitational pull is so strong that not even light can escape. Oh, what a silly concept! But we can prove they exist. We've even got photos of black holes. So calling this Darwinist is because we also don't pray to the guy. We don't wake up in the morning and go, Charles Darwin. What would Charles Darwin do? WWCDD. You don't have to be an atheist to be an evolutionist. So he then tries to soften the blow by going, there are people who believe in theistic evolution. That's not quite the same. That's what else is there? Materialists. Well, science works off materialism. So if you're going to call people who believe in the theory of evolution materialists, then you have to call rocket scientists materialists as well. So you can't. And the biggest thing is that he's mixing up two concepts. He's mixing up the origin of life with the development of life. And they are two very separate issues. It's like, great. So this is one of the common mistakes that creationists make, is that they go, you can't explain how the first cell came about, therefore evolution is BS. No. It could well be that, a deity or aliens or something, it cobbled together the first self-replicating cell, and then we just went from there. But then the theory of evolution, how can I put it? Theory of evolution, the theory of natural descent with genetic modification with natural inheritance, or the inheritance of traits, that can be true. So again, this is a very common creationist thing where you conflate, you put the two together, you put the origin of life with the development of life, and then you point at one and then you stick your middle finger up at the other. And I find that a very dishonest thing from creationists. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to end the episode here. So we're about half hour in. Anyway, I've been Damien, and I still am Damien, the tall, friendly atheist dad. If you want to check me out on Twitter at TFADpod, where I say snappy things and reply to silly comments from Christian apologists and sometimes even atheists as well. If you want to check out the podcast, anchor.fm/TFADad. Go head over to Facebook, facebook.com/TFADpod, or head over to www.tallfriendlyatheistdad.com. But until next time, stay safe and look after yourselves. And do you want to say goodbye? Goodbye. See you.
I am sure of my